Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming to our webinar. I'm Mindy Nobles. I know many of you. I am on Perkins staff here at the coordinating board. With me today are my colleagues Marissa Garza, Dwayne Hiller, and Sherry Rannis. We're going to give you an overview of what's in the Perkins Leadership RFA. For the first time to issue an RFA under Perkins 5. And we certainly want to take your questions this afternoon, so we'll make plenty of time for that. And let me begin, since this is our first Perkins or RFA under Perkins 5, let me go ahead and give you a little bit of background and a look forward with regard to Perkins 5. And we're attempting to move forward the slides. While we work on that, we will, let me just go ahead and talk a little bit, yes, there we go, a little bit about the background to Perkins 5. You know, the Carl D. Perkins CTE Improvement Act passed in 2006, and we funded continually after its six-year conclusion date on an annual basis while waiting for reauthorization of the Act. Then last July 2018, Congress finally passed that reauthorization, the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, which has come to be known as Perkins 5. Now, Perkins 5 takes effect on July 1st, 2019, and it's authorized through fiscal year 2024. We will be governed in the coming year, FY20, under a one-year state transitional plan, which is due to the Department of Ed at the end of April. We will, from FY21 through through FY23, be under a four-year state plan that we will submit in spring of 20. So our first year, FY20, will be a transition year, and our second year, FY21 under Perkins 5, will be the transition year. Now, what's new with Perkins 5? Let me give you two salient new elements. There's a more restrained role for the United States Department of Education. They will not be issuing non-regulatory guidance. They're reviewing existing non-regulatory guidance to see what applies, but my understanding is they will not issue new non-regulatory guidance, and there are restrictions on the regulation that they will issue. Additionally, they have no negotiation authority over state performance targets. This is a major change. States will set their own performance targets for the core indicators under Perkins 5. Department of Ed must approve state-determined targets if those targets meet certain statutory requirements. This enables states to interlink their Perkins plan with their strategic plans for secondary and post-secondary education. You will see the coordinating board seeking to tighten the interplay between Perkins Leadership Program and Perkins Basic Program and the state's strategic plan for higher education, 60x30TX. Now here's what to expect. Upcoming FY20, you will see minimal changes in the program, in the RFA, and in the way you submit your applications for BASIC. There are some required changes that we will make, but you will not see major changes for FY20. For FY20, we will not have performance targets for the core indicators. We will submit enrollment data. You will see your own enrollment data in the portal, but no performance data will be submitted. We estimate that we will release the RFA on or about June 7th of this summer. We estimate that basic grant applications will be due July 17th or thereabouts. Now, this final bullet is an important one. At some point during FY20, you will begin conducting a comprehensive local needs assessment in preparation for FY21, the implementation year. We will be providing you with some resources to do this major local needs assessment. It's new under Perkins 5, and we don't want you to try to work on it without necessary support from Perkins staff. Please know that you will not do that local needs assessment annually. You will do that once and update it no less than every 2 years. And then in FY21 implementation year, that's when we go, if you will, full on Perkins 5. We'll have a new state plan governing Perkins program priorities through 2024. Colleges will submit a local application based on a comprehensive local needs assessment that will incorporate labor market data. We'll have state targets for core indicator performance. Accountability requirements will be in effect for colleges. And we will report to the Department of Education not only enrollment numbers, but performance on core indicators. And with that, let me hand this presentation off to Sherry. Sherry will talk to you about our communications plan for the implementation of Perkins 5, and then we will get to the heart of this presentation, Perkins State Leadership Grants.
Thank you, Mindy. As Mindy outlined for us all, we've got a busy year or two ahead in terms of transitioning to Perkins 5 and then fully implementing it in 2021. And in support of that effort, we here at the coordinating board, our THECB Perkins team, want to make sure that we're communicating with you clearly and frequently about what's going on and what the expectations are and how we work and collaborate together through this process. So one of the things we're clearly doing, starting with this webinar today, is a webinar series that's going on throughout the Perkins calendar year, including one on the basic grant. So we will be having periodic webinars for the field to provide information and to give you opportunity to ask us questions about things. In addition, we're launching something we're calling Perkins Updates. That's a bulletin that will be coming to you via email that will describe developments, reminders about deadlines, pertinent events, Perkins and also CTE events, and other information that we think that is you all need to know. Those Perkins updates will be every couple of weeks over the next few months because it's such an intense and new period in our grant giving, and then about once a month after that. So we're looking forward to your feedback about our Perkins updates. We'll also be presenting on Perkins 5 at TACD's annual meeting, which will be April 4, 2019 here in Austin. We have scheduled or tentatively scheduling an orientation in early June 2019 around Perkins Basic. As we also mentioned, we're likely to have a webinar or two on Perkins Basic as well. And then in late January 2020, those of you who receive a Perkins State Leadership Grant will be meeting with us here in Austin to give us updates. So that's something about what our communications and exchanges will be looking forward. Now, the heart of the matter, Perkins State Leadership Grants for 2019-2020. We're excited to announce that the structure of this grant opportunity is changed and has, we think, some wonderful new qualities. First, very much in line with the spirit of Perkins 5, this grant competition is intentionally aligned with Texas's State Strategic Plan 60x30TX. Second, rather than having a single competition with sort of a broad amount of categories, we have 3 competitions with multiple opportunities for grants to you all. Also, the grants will be of longer duration, and this is, again, quite intentional. You may request up to 24 months for some of these competitions. A little bit more detail about that in a minute. And intentionally as well, these awards are larger. Several of the competitions, one of the competitions will allow for budgets of up to $200,000. So that would be up to $200,000 for up to 24 months in some cases. These are the 3 competition titles. The first is called Advancing 60x30TX through CTE Credential Completion. The second is concerning field-based innovation, which is about the best ideas that you all bring from your experience, knowledge, and research in the field. Within the field-based innovation category, there is also a field-based non-traditional award, a single award that we'll describe in some detail in a minute. And finally, continuation funding, an opportunity for those who are currently holding Perkins State Leadership Grants to continue their project work with support from Perkins. And with that, I'm turning the mic over to my colleague, Melissa Garza, to talk about the general criteria that we're looking for in all 3 competitions.
Thank you, Sherry. So the general criteria for all competitions, it is to contribute to the overall advancement of CTE in Texas, focus on improving student credential completion in CTE, incorporate CTE opportunities for underrepresented gender groups and special populations, and establish partnerships with educational agencies, institutions of higher education, adult education providers, workforce development boards, and business and industry. Along with that general criteria, it is appropriate to build upon formally funded projects and programs or propose innovation that does not duplicate previous projects or programs. Also to include a sustainability plan and budget, and if related to curriculum development or redesign, indicate adherence with the guidelines for instructional programs and workforce education, which is the GIPWE, and the Workforce Education Course Manual, which is the WECM. So the competition 1, which is the Advancing the 60x30 through CTE Credential Completion. So awards for projects that seek to smooth and better articulate credential completion pathways for students in high-wage or high-demand CTE fields. So this pathway is defined as including classroom instruction, internships, apprenticeships, and certification and licensure, all of which can lead to post-secondary credentials, and of course certificates and associate degrees. And just kind of a little bit of information in relating to the 60x30. I'm just going to read. I don't have it on the slide, but we can definitely send this information to you all if needed. So the credential completion, and one of the goals in supporting the 60x30 overarching goal of 60% of 25 to 34-year-olds in Texas holding a credential or degree by 2030. So this is resulting in a global competitive workforce. So the 60x30 completion target is 550,000 awards statewide by 2030. So from 2- and 4-year institutions in Texas. So the interim completion benchmarks are 376,000 awards by 2020 and 455,000 awards by 2025. So in 2017 alone, the number of awards was just shy of 334,000 certificates and associate degrees, which which accounted for only 43% of the awards for the plan. So the competition one for the structure would be CTE Credential Completion grants can be up to 24 months, as Sherry previously mentioned. Awards in the amount of $150,000 to $200,000 range, and it does require pre-proposal, and it may be renewed. So the criteria for success for competition one, so projects will be judged on soundness of rationale and design, including plans for evaluation and dissemination, number of post-secondary institutions and students potentially impacted, and then projects with intentional alignment or integration with emerging regional efforts in Texas, including the coordinating board's 60 by 30 regional networks. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Dwayne to continue on with more explanation.
Thank you, Marissa. In competition 2, we're looking at field-based innovation, and the goal is to encourage the conception, design, and execution of creative, field-originated projects that will contribute to the overall advancement of CTE in Texas and its regions. Projects should reflect institutional and regional priorities and insights gained through experience, data analysis, and examination of the research literature. Projects may focus on any aspect of the permissible uses described in the Perkins State Leadership RFA. The structure of these grants is that it's field-based and they can be up to 24 months. The awards can be up to $175,000, and it does require the submission of a pre-proposal. They can be renewed at the end of the term. Again, projects will be judged on soundness of the rationale for and design of the project, including evaluation and dissemination. And projects will also be judged on the degree of innovation displayed and alignment with the goals of 60 by 30 TX. Competition 2 includes a non-traditional innovation award for a single award for a non-traditional innovative project at $45,000 for 12 months. This award will develop or improve programs specifically supporting the success of underrepresented gender groups in established and emerging professions in high skills, high wage CTE programs. It requires a pre-proposal and it may be renewed. Competition 3 involves continuation funding. And in fiscal year 2019, Perkins Leadership grantees may apply for continuing support for their existing leadership projects. Awards will be made of up to $175,000 for a period of 12 months, and no pre-proposal is required in this case. Now I will turn the mic over to Sherry to continue.
Thanks, Dwayne. This is a timeline for our Perkins State Leadership Grant. Our RFA was posted on the Perkins page of the THECB website yesterday afternoon. RFA was posted. Today is the day for our informational webinars on March 21, and again, we're very grateful that you all have signed in and are listening to us today. Pre-proposals for competitions 1 and 2 will be due April 22nd. Upon review, the proposals that are selected will be invited to submit full applications to the THECB on May 4. And those full applications will be due to us on May 22nd. The notification of awards will be in late June, early July. This sounds like it's in concrete. It may not be, but if we have some small changes in some of these dates, we will let you know. Pre-proposal forms will be posted within the next couple of days on our THECB website. And now turning the mic back to Mindy.
And I will just ask at this point, if you have questions, if you have them, please go ahead and type them in the chat text box, and we'll respond as they come in. And as we are waiting to hear your questions, let me just say this. We are eager to keep you informed, to answer all your questions, not just today, but as we move forward. Please do not hesitate to ask me any questions you have about developing a leadership proposal. I'm your designated point of contact for that. But additionally, any questions you may have about Perkins in general, please feel free to email the grant advisor who works with you for BASIC, and we will be happy to answer your questions. And I see that we have some coming in. Is there an online resource to review previous successful leadership grants? This is a good question. We have in the past had past year's grants on our website. The coordinating board has undergone some updates with its website, but we do still have those on the Perkins page. And I'm being told by Sherry, who has looked at that recently, that we have, what, 2 pages, Sherry?
We have 2 years' worth of previous awards.
2 years' worth of previous awards. Very good. Okay, and are those, okay. And then let me go on to the next question. If it is intended to be a 2-year grant, is it limited to the amount over both years, or is that fund doubled? And the answer that we had that question come up this morning, that is the amount over 2 years. For example, if you have a $200,000 grant, you have up to 2 years to implement that $200,000 grant. It's possible to apply for a continuation of your large-scale project and receive subsequent funding in a funding year. But it would be the amount for up to a 24-year period. Okay, and somebody wants to know if they can have a copy of the slides. We're going to post these slides and a recording of this webinar to our website. I believe about the online resources, someone wants to know if they're relevant to the current RFA. Here's where they would be relevant. They would be relevant if you are looking at doing a field-based innovation grant and want to see what's been done in the past, at least in the past 2 years. Field-based innovation is, in a way, our old, bring us your best ideas format. This RFA has dispensed with priority topics, however. Please know that previous grant applications, keyed to a specific priority topic stipulated in the RFA. So they're limited in that way. This RFA asks you to refer to the required and permissible uses listed in that appendix of the RFA. You will find that the permissible uses are more extensive than the old priority topics were. Okay. As we're waiting for other questions to come in, let me make this comment. I've heard from a college this week with an idea for a leadership grant, and they wanted to know, and I'm just going to quote this. Will the RFP this year allow a fighting chance for a small enrollment or fewer served proposal? And I'm going to tell you that, yes, indeed, it will. If your institution sees a regional or multi-regional or even statewide need that you think your leadership project can meet to advance 60 by 30 text, you do not have to be a large college with a large enrollment to get our attention with a good idea. We invite your smaller projects as well. There is no minimum to apply. And I see a question from A viewer, are we able to apply under 2 categories? You certainly are. So if you have ideas in 2 categories, please submit them. And let me talk a little bit about a phrase I just used, regional, multi-regional, or statewide impact. This is new language for an RFA under state leadership, and it implies that we're looking for regional or multi-regional impact. We want you to know that we recognize that in a state as large as Texas, regional impact and multi-regional impact can advance 60 by 30 TX priorities and have a state-level impact in that way. You may argue for your regional or multi-regional impact as long as you connect it to the state strategic plan 60 by 30 text. And we have some more questions here. Whether you apply for competition 1, 2, or 3, are you still eligible to apply for the opportunity the next year? The answer to that is yes, you are. Continuation grants, current continuation grants can also always apply for another year's funding. We want good justification for continuation grants. But yes, you may. And then we've had problems, says a participant, getting collaboration from other institutions. Would it be possible to get a list of institutions or individuals that would be interested in helping with leadership projects? Well, that's a good question. That would perhaps require some solicitation of interest on the coordinating board's part. May we take that under advisement and do a follow-up with you? I think that's a very good question. Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions? Let me just point out to you that the continuation grant proposals, as we stated, don't require a pre-proposal, but they do require notice of intent. I don't believe we said it explicitly in this webinar, but we do say it in the RFA. Those continuation notices of intent are due April 22nd, just as the pre-proposals are. So just to make that note. Do we have other questions? And Sherry, Dwayne, and Marissa, I'll ask you if anything occurs to you that we should add before we close out our webinar today.
Only that we're, as we said before, grateful for your participation. Any feedback you have about this webinar would be also deeply appreciated. We are determined to, as we said, communicate and do outreach effectively and frequently in the years and months ahead, and we can only do that as we collaborate with you.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Well, thank you very much. I'll just say hugs to the field. We appreciate all you community college CTE people. You're making the difference in thousands of lives, and I know from firsthand experience what you're doing out there. And with that, I will go ahead and begin closing out this webinar. Don't hesitate to email us your follow-up questions. I want to thank you for attending today. We hope you'll stay tuned as we all move forward into Perkins 5, and stay tuned for more communications from us. I will tell you that we were asked this morning if we would send some summary or guidance materials about Perkins 5. There are those things available from various organizations. We are going to begin distributing some of those to you folks in the field. So thank you for attending. I want to thank as well and acknowledge Sherry Rannis and Marissa Garza, who put this webinar together for us. I think we are fortunate to have this webinar and communications talent on staff. We hope it is of great benefit to our cohesiveness and our flow of information for the Perkins field over time. And with that, and seeing no more late communications popping in from you all, I thank you again for attending. You all have a wonderful and fruitful rest of the day, and we will be emailing with information and materials just a little bit down the road. Again, thanks. Goodbye.